What is up, and welcome back to the W Sports Podcast. We got Jimothy, we have Tubby on yet another platform because we're having some tech issues, but thank you so much for bearing with us. We're today going to bring you even more news and notes as we get into the playoff picture for both college football world and, of course, the NFL. You got myself, Jimothy, and the best co-host in the business, Tubby, the one and only Tubby. Welcome back to the show.
What is up? It's time to talk some college football and some little bit of NFL, but mainly college football.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that. And Tubby, you're repping Oklahoma today. It's a good day to be an OU fan. So let's just not bury the lead. How about those Sooners right now? Back-to-back road wins against 100,000 fans at each of those in both Tennessee and obviously Alabama. I think looking at the schedule early on, it was like if they get lucky with one of these wins, that'd be incredible. But the expectation was 0-2 on these and try to survive these last two for Britt Venables' career as a head coach. But it's looking different now.
Yeah, the fact that they've been able to navigate the schedule, I think, has probably shocked a lot of people. I mean, right now you're sitting with only 2 losses with arguably the toughest schedule in college football this year. And you're going on the road to Neyland Stadium, took out Tennessee, then, a couple weeks later, go down Tuscaloosa, take out the Alabama team that was just on fire. And the fact that they come out with both those wins, and now you hold your destiny in your hand with 2 more games and you're in the college football playoffs. I don't think too many people saw that coming.
No, I 100% agree. And I think what we found is so going into it, I thought OU has a shot to win because the one thing that Alabama has not been able to do this year is run the ball. I mean, so they threw the ball all over the place. They outgained Oklahoma in the box score. It doesn't look like there's any way Oklahoma should have won this game outside of defense. And so you mentioned this when we were texting back and forth. Like, there's a certain number of points that once the Sooners get, you feel really confident in it. And so I thought about that number a lot and kind of how do you come up with that number when a defense is really good? Because you are going to be playing these offenses and quarterbacks, especially as you go into SEC, championship game stuff, which I don't think the Sooners can make, but even so, like into the playoffs. And that number for Oklahoma is if their team can, I say team because it's not just the offense, right? We've seen that the last couple of weeks, is if they can score 25 points, I mean, watch out because it is, if you look at that missed extra or a field goal, that's 24. So again, the number is 25. If they can get to 25, you got to feel good about any game they're going into.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we were texting, if Oklahoma can find some semblance of an offense, there's no team in college football that will want to play them, especially in the playoffs in a winner-take-all situation. With a defense like that, gives Oklahoma every chance to beat anyone they play because that defense is on such a different level right now. And what I think in the SEC play, they're giving up somewhere around like 18 points a game, which is insane with the high-powered offenses that they've went up against. So I think, this defense, and the crazy thing is you had your best defensive player not even on the field, and you were still able to put pressure on Ty Simpson on that offensive line. And like, I was listening to one podcast and the guy was like, we love Ty Simpson. He's like, but when you muddy the pocket and he gets hit, he gets up with this deer in the headlights look. And that's what Oklahoma was able to do. Yeah, he had 300 and some yards passing, but another great thing Oklahoma defense is so good at is bending and not breaking. You can move the ball down the field, but there's a certain point where that defense pins its ears back and goes, okay, that enough's enough. Now it's time to go out there and either get a turnover or force them to a field goal. They're one of 2 teams in college football that has given up more field goals than touchdowns this year. The other is Indiana.
Yeah, well, and you'd argue that the 2 team schedules are a little bit different. So I think it's definitely a fair question as you look at the Oklahoma's defense as a whole. I think, honestly, even no matter what happens from here on to the end of the year, they still need to clean house on the offensive coach side of the ball outside of what they have now. My mind just went blank with who their coach is.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Arbuckle is the only one that's safe. In quarterback coach, I think will be safe too. But I agree. I think DeMarco needs to go. I think Bo needs to go. Joe John needs to go. Emmett Jones needs to go. they need to allow Arbuckle to bring his own guys in, guys that he feels comfortable with, that he feels like can, develop players, because that's been Oklahoma's biggest problem is you're able to get the recruits, but the development from all those position players in the offensive line has been next to nothing over the last 4 years. And I think it's time now that to take a different road, because I mean, DeMarco hasn't put anyone in the NFL wide receiver wise out. What was the last great wide receiver we had was CD Lamb.
Mm-hmm.
Tight end wise, Mark Andrews,
Mm-hmm.
that was how many years ago. And
Mm-hmm.
then the offensive line, he's able to put guys in the in the NFL, but the problem is the guys that he's been putting in the NFL have been transfers, weren't guys that he developed from a freshman and worked their way. And the last few, maybe I think the last one I can think of is Anton Harrison, and he's been okay in the NFL, hasn't been super great, but
Mm-hmm.
there has to come a time where loyalty has to go to the side, and you have to be able to develop players. Because, like I've said, if I'm a running back and DeMarco Murray's recruiting me out of high school, I don't take that phone call.
Yeah. Yeah, it just because, and that's the biggest piece is you look at the defensive side of the ball and how much development they've had of getting guys who aren't like the top they're good prospects, but they're not the top 5-star guys, and they have developed them over time to where it is a problem, and there is so much depth that right now he can't win it, but Brent Venables should get the defensive coordinator of the year award. I mean, the way he calls defenses against these teams, it's incredible. Now you still got to finish it. You got 2 more games. Alabama, they still have to finish they can still finish their season out pretty strong over the last 2 weeks. Some of these SEC teams have like those cupcakes this next week. So that is unfortunate. But OU's got Mizzou, who just ran the ball absolutely all over the field. It's going to be a tougher matchup, I think, this week. But ultimately, looking into it, OU, they win. Texas, the other big SEC matchup. Now we're going to get to some of the other games too, but that was one I texted you even going into it. I was like, this is going to be a 2-score game. I just don't see Texas doing this on the road. And this is a 3rd straight loss to Georgia. Second, essentially on the road or neutral side. So,
yeah, no, I mean, it kind of, the way the game went has really summed up Texas's season. They played one really good game, and that was against Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, all the other games have been close, hard-fought, wins. I mean, you go to overtime with Kentucky. You go to overtime with Mississippi State. You almost blow a 20-point lead to Vanderbilt. There's something not clicking there. Like Arch, look, I think Arch's numbers look better than they actually were in the first half. Like, I think at one point he was like 17 for 24 or something like that, but he was averaging 4.5 yards a pass, a completion. So the numbers look better, the completion percentage and all that stuff, but then it comes to the second half, and he was essentially like 7 for 20. So he hasn't developed enough right now, and I don't know what's going on. There's a lot of stuff. I don't know if Sark is potentially leaving, because lately there has been at least 4 or 5 guys that I've seen that have decommitted from that recruiting class over the last week. So,
that's at least smoke. And I think, this has been a trend of like, is he a future NFL coach? There's going to be a lot, quite a few jobs opening up on that Monday that the season ends. So we'll see about that. But ultimately, I think if you're an Arch Manning fan, it's okay. He's supposed to not be good yet. So same thing with Underwood from Michigan. Like, he's not going to be great yet. He had some boneheaded plays for Michigan. They still won the game. That's Big Ten football right now for you. But you look at Arch Manning in Texas. And they need some help to get into the playoff now, where Georgia still looks like one of the teams to beat right now, because they seem like a complete team.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I was talking about this with another friend of mine, and we were talking about college, the top team in college football, and I'm still on the fence about Ohio State, just because I look at the schedule that they played, and the best team that they played was a ranked opponent of Illinois back week 5 or 6 of the season. Illinois is not ranked now, and then you look at the rest of their schedule. We look at potential. Penn State was supposed to be that team. Well, Penn State, we know what happened to Penn State. Now Michigan is really essentially the only good team that's going to be on there. They haven't had that competition to really show, are they truly the number one team? Yeah, they're winning their games and they're putting up the numbers and stuff like that. But yet you look at some of these games where they start out super slow against these, not so great teams. I mean, that Purdue game was close for most of the first half. And I still don't know if there's like a consensus number one team in college football. Indiana, they've started, having a few hiccups here and there. If I was going to say, to me, the number one team in college football right now, I would say Georgia. I think they are starting to put everything together, and Gunnar Stockton is starting to play really good football. What he did against Texas, you could tell he's starting to understand it a little bit better. He's spreading the ball around. They're finding wide receivers that, maybe they weren't able to do last year. I think right now that is the best team in college football because we've actually seen them play competition.
Yeah.
Out, inside of the SEC.
They'll also at least keep the defense honest with the run game. And that is so. It's like if you just look at they consistently, like, they're not going to run. Frazier's not going to run for 200 yards in the game. That's fine, but they're at least keeping a balanced offense, so you can't just pin your ears back and just send a couple stunts and the blitzes and hope that you just get the quarterback timing off. Which ultimately, that's kind of what happened for Oklahoma and Alabama. Not to bring it back to that one again, but that's eventually what led to Ty Simpson having poor footwork towards the game because they could run the ball, but they couldn't get the ball in the end zone ultimately, and that was a huge setback. So I think if you gave me a second team, I think just because of pure talent in running back ability, give me Ohio State for number 2 right now because of the balanced attack that they have had. And still, they just don't turn the ball over. I mean, I know the competition. This year, their schedule feels like last year's Indiana.
It does, and that's where I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't know if I completely trust them because we haven't seen Julian Sam play in a big, pivotal, hard-fought game yet. And the numbers, you look at him, and you're like, oh, man, they're, eye-opening. He's completing 80% of his passes. But we haven't seen him play real competition as a starter yet. And that's what worries me. Like, will we see the real Ohio State against Michigan? I know it's hard to take those rivalry games, oh, look, they're not that good, just because rivalry games can go either way, no matter how good or how bad one team is. But I worry playing against a physical team, are they going to be a little bit more exposed when it comes to the playoff and they have to if they do end up having to face like a team like Oklahoma or Georgia that has a really physical defense and is just a physical team all around. How are they going to stand up to that? That's my biggest worry for them, is because we just haven't seen them have to do that this year.
Yeah, no, and they're going to get Michigan on the road here in a couple weeks, so we'll see. And here's the thing: I think if you look at Michigan, you look at Georgia Tech, Texas A&M, there are a couple really, really close games. Even Ole Miss didn't pull away; they were behind until the fourth quarter, which is where they scored 14 unanswered points to ultimately win by 10. You're not supposed to win every single game in college football anymore. You just don't see that with the way these teams are and the talent that has just grown in the world of football. And I think the fact that some of these teams are still winning. Now, I don't think that Michigan is as good as they're advertised, but give me Bryce Underwood in 2 years, and I think that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a Big Ten issue. Same thing with Sagan if he can continue to progress, and Arch Manning. I think some of these young quarterbacks, this is the year, if you're in those conferences, to overtake them, right? Because you only get so many of these with these talent.
Yeah.
But of some of those teams that had closer games, is there one that you think – I still believe in them, especially considering when you think of deep playoff run.
Deep playoff run, close games.
And you got to keep Michigan in there because they're 6-1 with a chance to win the Big Ten right now.
Yeah, no, it's true. Deep playoff run is tough because, I mean, granted, I do feel like it is so wide open. I'll say Ole Miss just because I know that we've seen it, as OU fans, as being in the SEC, that offense is hard to stop.
Mm-hmm.
You may think that you've had it slowed down, and then all of a sudden they flip a switch, and now they're putting up 14 points in a blink of an eye, or they're throwing the ball downfield. So I think offensive wise, that puts them in a really good position, unless they play a really good defense, or a team that is well balanced. Maybe it makes it a little bit tougher. But when we're talking about pure offense, this is a team that can score with anyone, and I think that they will give pretty much anyone a fit just because of how many points that they can put up.
Yeah, no, I won't argue with that one at all. And what's crazy, I mean, you look at the Big Ten specifically, and they have 5 teams that have one loss in the conference. Now, fortunately, Indiana, I mean, they've almost guaranteed that they are a lock to be in the Big Ten championship game because they have one game. They have a bye week this week, and then they're going to have the game at Purdue or against Purdue. It doesn't think it matters. So Purdue's 0-8. They're terrible. Ohio State, no losses yet, but they still have Michigan. Michigan obviously still has Ohio State, but Oregon and USC with one loss, they play this week.
Yeah.
So we'll get into more of that later in this Thursday episode of Friday, depending on which day we record. But I'm just saying, like, the Big Ten is far from being settled. And I would like to throw this out there. If there is an at-large team, and I know it has to be a group of 5 or 4, whatever it is, I would rather it be Iowa. Because I know Iowa lost, but I think that Iowa would be a crappy matchup if you got them in the playoff and just flip a coin. They might just do enough defensively to get themselves a win.
Yeah. I mean, defensively, it's the same story for Iowa every single year. They have a really good defense. They just can't find the offense. And that was the problem. You didn't score a single point in the second half, and that's what led to you losing. But yeah, I mean, that's a team that when it comes to those winner-take-all games, those one games, playoffs or whatever, those teams with those really good defenses are the teams you typically do not want to play because if your offense is off just a slight bit, it could be the big difference of winning and losing that game, whether you are the favorite or not. And that's what I think there's a couple teams, and I'm not saying Oklahoma can win the national championship, but they remind me a lot of what we saw with Ohio State last year. Ohio State, yeah, they had Jeremiah Smith and they had a solid run game, but really throughout the season their offense wasn't overly explosive, but that defense was so tough that it kept them in games, and they found the offense in the playoffs, which ultimately made it that much easier for them to win. But I see Oklahoma somewhat in the same make that defense is so good, and their offense hasn't quite clicked. But if it does, those last couple weeks, that's a team that could absolutely be the 8th seed and run the table and win the national championship because that defense is so good. So if you can find just a sliver more of offense for Oklahoma, and it would be the same thing for Iowa. If Iowa had somewhat of an offense, I think they're like just like 3 or 4 plays away from being undefeated right now. I mean, you almost beat Oregon, you almost beat USC, you almost beat Indiana. I mean, if their offense was just a hair better, we may be talking about them being in the top 10 and looking at a chance at the Big Ten championship and an automatic berth into the college football playoff.
Yeah, well, and ultimately, I am, as we're pushing pro divisions when it comes to these massive conferences. I think it would just, make it just that much more entertaining towards the end of the year. Like, what are these games? Especially when you look at an Oregon USC that's upcoming weekend, because it's like, well, they're essentially playing for a shot to win the division, to play in the conference championship game, and it gives a little bit more meaning to it. But I don't necessarily always want to see rematches. I'm not a huge fan of that. Seen it enough. All right. Well, I think we can all agree Texas Tech is a legit team. But if you look at the Big 12 and the ACC, both of them have lacked a lot of this playoff potential. Outside of Texas Tech, what's maybe one team that you trust the most if they can make it into the playoff to get a win? One win.
One win. I'm going to stick with my team that I picked at the beginning. I'm going to take Utah. I think that Kyle Whittingham, he knows how to win those big games, those tough games, those hard-fought games like you'll see in the playoffs. I think that he could. I'm still not completely sold on BYU, even though they're ranked 12. There's something about them. I mean, watching them play against Texas Tech, you could tell they were completely outmanned. And
can we get a quarterback with a normal number? 47 is absolutely ridiculous. Get that out of here.
Yeah, at least the Utah-Texas Tech game was an entertaining game where it was yeah, Texas Tech ended up pulling away at the end, but Utah and they were very comparable to each other throughout most of that game. So I think that they could, potentially, if they somehow do make it in, which I don't know if they will, could potentially give a team in the playoffs a decent test.
Today, my name would also be, or school, whatever you want to say, it would be Utah. But if before this Sunday's games, it would have been Georgia Tech. And then they barely sneak away with a win against the worst team in the conference in the ACC, which is already underperforming in Boston College.
Yeah.
I don't know. But that brings me to one of my final questions I have for the college football, unless you have something else, Tubby, is this head coaching. There's a lot of turnover right now for some really big programs, and there's not a lot of big program names that are ready to transition. Virginia Tech is about to – it looks like there's a lot of smoke that he's headed to Virginia Tech for James Franklin. Sorry, I think I said the school than him. Thoughts on that hire? Good, great, fine, I wouldn't do it.
I think it's a solid place for him to land because, I mean, we've seen the record against these top 25, top 10 teams. It's not great. And so I think going there, it doesn't put as much pressure on you as it would if, say, you took the Florida job or you took the LSU job, something like that. At least they're a program that has had somewhat significance in the early 2000s and maybe have one of the greatest atmospheres, when it comes to college football. It probably doesn't put as much pressure on him to win immediately, and gives him a little bit more of a lifeline just in case if things start out slow for him over the first couple of years. Yeah. So I think it's a solid place for him, and I think it's a really good hire for Virginia Tech.
Yeah, for Virginia Tech, great hire, I think, because he's built for a program like that to build it up. I mean, you think about what Penn State was before he got there. This was not a competitive, playoff type team. And now he obviously isn't the guy who's going to get you over the hump, but maybe in the ACC that could be good enough.
Yeah. Look what he did at Vanderbilt too. I mean, in 2009-ish era, season when they had a pretty solid year, he was the head coach, and he's what kind of got them there. And then, once he left, they went back down to what they were. But he's able to build up these programs that are kind of down in the dumps and get them back up there. Maybe he ain't going to win you a national championship, but at least he's going to make you prominent and, at least a team that you have to watch out for.
Yeah. And I think it is a testament and a thankfulness to if your school has gotten over the hump. I mean, as an OU fan, this time last year I said, get rid of Venables because we don't have enough situations. And a part of this is trust the process, and sometimes the quick return is not the best return. But I think, again, the biggest thing that's going to limit a coach like Venables is you got to clean house at some point and get rid of the guys who weren't good in the first place. I get his style, but I was very close. And I think that there's so many teams that, yes, they fired a guy and they're like, well, who are we going to go get? So I think one of the best names out there, honestly, if I was going to search for someone, it would be Brent Key. And I think he's been linked a little bit to some of these jobs already, but he's a coach that I think should be one of the better guys to go look for, right? For a bigger name team.
Yeah, no, I think that is a good name. I think another name, a very interesting name, is the guy from Memphis. Head coach from Memphis, I think, is another person, or Summerall from Tulane. Some of these smaller teams.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah, I think that him maybe going to LSU might be the play. Whether or not, I know Florida and LSU are both really holding out for Lane Kiffin, hoping that he would take a job. Now, granted, whether or not this is completely true, I saw Brett McMurphy of On3. He came out and said that I guess Ole Miss has kind of gave Lane Kiffin a timeline. We need to know, in the next week or so, are you really considering these jobs? Because supposedly his wife and kids visited Gainesville, looked at places, then visited Baton Rouge and looked at places. So whether or not that has how much validity that has, but I think it kind of speaks to he hasn't really come out and just been like, no. I mean, granted, you can't always take coaches' word for that. We know that, as OU fans. But at least if I'm a Ole Miss player, Ole Miss, fan.
He's gone. I don't even know. He's gone.
Yeah,
there's no way he doesn't move.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Florida's going to be able to throw so much money at him. For him, it's going to be hard for him to turn that down.
Yeah, Yeah, it's tough for Ole Miss. Before him, they were okay, but they were not great.
Yeah.
They were not a playoff team. There was one joke that was said like, "Hey, speaking because OLSU job is open again." Someone said they want to fly out to Oregon for the Oregon USC game, and afterwards ask Lincoln Riley, "Hey, rumors are that you might be interested in the LSU just make it full circle." It could be funny. Could be pretty funny.
Man.
Could you imagine in a playoff world where USC has to come to Oklahoma?
Dude, I was
Don't get me too excited, dude.
I was talking about that with one of the guys from class, and you're like, can you imagine if USC sneaks into the playoffs and they have to play OU in Norman? Can you imagine what that atmosphere is going to be like for Lincoln Riley walking into that stadium? 86,000 people just absolutely going in on you. Oh my gosh. I would have to try to find a way to get to that game because I just want to see how, what the atmosphere would look like because they're going to eat him alive.
Well, as great as Brent Venables is on the defensive side, Lincoln Riley is still an animal on the offensive side. A heck of a matchup. I think college football will be grateful for a matchup like that compared to what we had last year in the first round. I think Lincoln Riley's offense would travel pretty well, but the one thing that always travels well is defense. So, all right. All that said, we're looking at a playoff picture that is starting to kind of make itself known in the NFL. You have an MVP type candidate in the Patriots that they have. Obviously, you already know it. Drake May, who you have loved since he got drafted. And I will say, look at all the highlights of this boy and who he is throwing against the Saints, the Jets. Oh, my gosh. He is not playing a good schedule right now, but he's still taking care of business, which is a piece of the recipe.
Absolutely. You look at the team that they played, the teams that they have played, and you're just like, okay, you haven't played no one yet, guy. But you also have to go, well, you may have not played anyone, but you're still winning and you're putting up numbers. So I would be more worried if he wasn't, doing good against the bad teams. So the fact that he is, performing the way he is and they're winning against the teams that they should beat, that's okay with me. But I absolutely understand it because they have played no one.
Yeah. But looking at what we have right now, so they're number one, and then the Denver is also at 9-2 after they just beat the Chiefs on the last second field goal. As the Chiefs are now 1-4 on the road, and they've fallen to 1-2 in the division. That's a tough hole to try to climb out of, especially because Los Angeles is still in the middle of those two at 7-4. And the Colts still at 8-2, very similar schedule to the Patriots right now. Is there a buy-in that you have to maybe one of those top four teams? I mean, we could throw the Bills in there too at 7-3. So maybe those top five teams right now, including the Chargers, the Bills. I'm not throwing in the AFC North right now.
Yeah, no, definitely not the Chargers. I mean, they just got dog walked by the Jaguars. That was ugly. The amount of injuries that they have on that team. If they sneak into the playoffs, I think I might be a little surprised. I think that there's a lot of injuries to overcome, especially on that offensive line. I mean, Joe Alt is now out for the season. He's already been hurt. Lost Rashad Slater. You have a banged up Quentin Johnston trying to play. You lost Najee Harris for the season, and that's not even including some of the guys on the defensive side. I think that they aren't. If they do make it, they will be a very quick one and done like they were last year. I don't buy the Colts still. I don't buy them. I'm going to say the Patriots. Honestly, I'm going to say the Patriots. I want to say the Bills, but when you're giving up as much as you are on defense, that is a huge problem. They really did nothing to address it. The injuries keep on piling up, and it's something we see every year with this team, and they get a year older, and then the same guys keep on getting hurt. It makes it harder for them to come back, and when they do come back, they're not near the players they were before. Give me the young team. Give me the team that's on fire right now. And granted, they haven't played anyone, but I do trust Drake May. I think that Vrabel is building a great culture there. They're starting to build a really good defense. What?
Finally giving Henderson the ball.
Yeah, Henderson is finally getting the ball. And I wonder who would have thought of doing that.
I tried to trade for him in a couple leagues. a month ago, knowing that this was going to happen, and you got to be tired of it now. And no, they didn't.
No.
So their patience paid off. I find it hard to not agree with you. Denver's defense is so good; it's hard to go against it. I just don't trust Bo Nix. I don't trust the lack of running game that they don't have yet.
Well, and J.K. Dobbins is out now
for the year. Exactly. Yeah. Again, a big shocker right there. Obviously, the Bills. You see another game where Josh Allen does everything, and it gives them in a position to make a deep playoff run. But I haven't seen them do that and then get over the hump. And the hump that has been the Chiefs. And you know what? The Chiefs right now, they need to figure out how to adjust. And they're in that lull that the Patriots are in. And so either they're going to figure it out or not. And right now, you should have made the trade for Breece Hall, a third-round pick. Good Lord. Are you kidding me? It's also their fault that they didn't address it in the draft in a deep running back class. Holy cow.
Yeah, definitely was a miss. Oh, I mean, they did get Brashad Smith. But
come on. Dude, did you see the block? He absolutely – come on.
Yeah.
No.
You drafted a Jerick McKinnon. That's basically what you did. And
you took him late in the round. That's fine.
Yeah. But the problem isn't that you don't have a running back that can catch the ball. It's the fact that you don't have a running back that can run the football or block. Yeah, I mean, Ollie Gordon went in the 7th round. Look what Ollie Gordon's had a solid year as a backup to Achane this year. He probably is better than Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco at this point in his career, in their careers right now. So, this was the draft that if you needed a running back, you could have waited. I mean, look at Kyle Monangai for the Bears, 7th round draft pick.
Yep, Monangai, been great. So, I don't know the AFC playoff picture. It's not top heavy. It's depthy, and it is going to look very different this year unless something crazy happens. There's still a chance that Baltimore can kind of just run the table. That division is one of the weakest right now in all sports.
Yeah. And then Aaron Rodgers fractures his wrist. So, I mean, I guess it is the right time of the year. It's Rudolph season. Almost Christmas.
There you go. What does it say whenever I'm watching the game on Red Zone and it says Rudolph has injured the game? And I didn't immediately think of injury. I thought, what did Aaron Rodgers? Is he just playing bad? Like, what am I missing? Unfortunately, for Aaron Rodgers, he is hurt. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
So, looking over to the NFC. You have a good matchup last night, and it was absolute dud on Sunday Night Football again with the Eagles and Lions. It looked like at the end of the first half that they were finally getting things to click. It just didn't happen. No. The Eagles running away with their division. I mean, the Dallas Cowboys play tonight, and they're 3-5-1. I mean, that's just not a good defensive team. But the Eagles, the Bears lead the NFC North. Nobody called that. Come on now. They've won 3 straight games. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are surviving some injuries, but they're 6-4, a half-game lead over the Panthers, who won again this last week. And then the Falcons just lost. I mean, they weren't in the playoff picture anyway, but lost Penix probably for the year. Yeah. But I say all that, and I still think it's the Rams conference to lose right now.
It should absolutely be. I mean, but the thing that worries me for the Rams is that you turned Sam Darnold over 4 times, and you barely won that game.
Yeah.
And so, granted that their defense played good, I still have some major questions on the secondary for the Rams. And if Sam Darnold was, 2 turnovers less, I think the Seahawks win that game. But I do think that it is I think it is more top heavy than the AFC, where there's a lot of spread out. The Bears do lead the conference, but they also kind of have one of those Patriots, Colts type schedules where they've played some pretty easy teams and had to really hope for some late game heroics to win games. But you also look at the Lions, and I think the Packers and the Eagles have shown the NFL this is how you beat the Lions, and that is you muddy the pocket for Jared Goff, because if you do, Jared Goff does what he did last night. But then
he's not going to have home field advantage.
No, and then you look at the Eagles, and I mean, they haven't looked great. Yeah, you won. You beat the Packers. You beat the Lions, and they're like, oh, well, we don't care how we win. Well, eventually your offense is going to have to do something and have to, show up, because your defense, granted, it is better. You getting Jalen Phillips and, some of these guys getting healthy. It is better, but it's still nowhere on the level it was last year. and your offense is clearly not even close on the level that it was last year. Saquon's not quite Saquon this year. There's all the distractions with A.J. Brown. And then there's reports coming out saying that a lot of the offensive players don't like Jalen Hurts and stuff like that. There's a lot of negative stuff coming around right now, and that you've won 2 in a row and you beat 2 good teams in the NFC, but yet you haven't done it convincingly, and you haven't really shown that you are the team to beat.
Yeah, right now, and so for me, it is the Rams. I see what you're saying. Give me Matt Stafford as the MVP. It's not even a question to me.
Yeah.
And then what I do like about Seattle to weather the storm on this one, I think this one was on the road. Which, by the way, Rams, those black, beautiful.
So
great.
It's not black.
I thought it was. It's not black.
No, they say it's midnight blue.
Okay, well, if they want to get technical about their black midnight blue color uniforms, that's fine. That's black. What are you talking about?
I know. I was like, they're talking about it, and they're like, oh, they're black uniforms, and the guy was like, oh no, it's not black. It's actually a really dark midnight blue. And I'm like, whatever. So I went to Fanatics just to see if it said, and it says there right there on there, midnight blue jerseys. I'm like,
you know what?
I even zoomed on
color
the picture.
Yeah, what color is midnight blue at midnight?
It's
basically black. What are you talking about? Come on now.
Yeah, I know. I zoomed in on the picture to see if maybe I could see any hints of. I was like, this still looks black to me. I don't know.
That is funny. Yeah, I don't know. So playoff picture wise, like you said, I think it goes to there. There's still a lot to happen. The Packers, I don't think they actually want to make the playoffs. I think they're trying. I mean, they did win, but I don't think they want to make the playoffs.
No,
you tell me I'm wrong. Jordan Love, why is he taking so many steps back?
I don't know. This team baffles me. The fact that somehow they're 6-3-1. I don't know how that happens with the way they played lately. But I honestly, I don't know where you go from here. They played throughout the season and don't have any issues with drops. They, fewest drops in the NFL up through the, first like 6 weeks, 7 weeks of the season. Then it's like, oh, all of a sudden the last 2 weeks. Back to last year, where now we're dropping everything in sight. And then the whole situation last week with the Brandon McManus, having him out there kicking while he has a quad injury, but yet you have Lucas Haversick, who granted missed 2 extra points this week, is sitting on the practice squad, and he holds the Packers record for longest field goal in franchise history. Who's healthy? At least the situation is weird. Like, I don't really know with Josh Jacobs being hurt if the Packers can really sustain anything, because he really is every bit of offense that they have, and you're not going to play a really bad run defense like the Giants every single week, where Emmanuel Wilson will be able to be somewhat serviceable.
Yeah, no, it's going to be tough weather to storm, but ultimately, it's a big reason why anybody should be subscribing to the YouTube channel that we have for the W Sports Podcast, because we're going to continue to follow this as it develops, as the season hits the playoff season, Christmas season, whatever it is. You said it's Mason Rudolph season. It's actually also subscribe season. We're going to have a Black Friday special that starts right now today. Subscribe for absolutely free on our YouTube channel. That's all you got to do. So, one, thank you for all those that have subscribed. Thank you for sticking with us with our kind of crazy fall schedule. It's going to feel a little bit more rhythmic as we get into the holiday season. So stick with us. We'll stick with you guys. Always put your thoughts in the chat or in the comment section. We'll always try to come back and reply to those. But Tabby, it's been a great show. I guess we'll see y'all next time.
See ya.
See you.